Four, three, two, one. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Phenomenal Student Podcast. Today, I'm going to have my first segment of Phenomenal Students. In my first 4 years as a teacher, I've had a lot of phenomenal students throughout that time that really embody that. But the student I have today is probably, she probably doesn't realize it, but I have the very first thing that she wrote to me. You can't see it that well. On her first day, I had framed it right after that. She probably never knew that. And I never would have knew that particular student would have ended up becoming an author so young. Like, I must understand, I've only been teaching 4 years, and I teach at the elementary level, so I would have never expected this early in the process to have a student that is already an author, but it's an honor to have a student that already is doing that. I've had a chance to write 2 books myself, and ironically, she has a feature role in my second book. Her name is Maya in my first book, talking about my first year as a teacher, my rookie year. So it only makes sense that she would have already written her first book, which is titled The Shadow Man. So Mikayla Hodor, tell us, everyone, how you're doing.
I'm doing good. Ever since I published the book, I've been doing really well, actually. I have been really, really happy. And I did something that I really wanted to do for a long time when I was a child. I think that's just really good, and I'm doing really well.
I would say that's definitely what's up. And I have to keep repeating to y'all guys, she's only a 13-year-old going to the 8th grade, and she's already published her first book. Apparently, they've already had a few sales. Maybe not as a bestseller yet, but we're on the road to it. Maybe this interview will help. All right, so we'll start with the first question. What made you want to write this book, Mikayla?
So usually I would write books, just have fun and stuff. And this one just popped up out of my mind because I watched this movie, and I was like, oh hey, what about the book that I wrote? How about I do this? And so I started writing it, and then I finished, and I showed my mom. My mom was like, we can actually publish this, and I was like. Mm-hmm. And then so I was like, yeah, we should totally do it. And it took 2 years, and now we finally got it out.
Hey, sometimes it takes longer than that. Some people let books sit for years, years and years, 10 years sometimes 20. So tell everybody about the book. Tell everybody what the plot of it is. What is the whole premise? Don't give it all away because I want them to buy it. But tell us about the book.
So it's about this girl named Ruby, and she has friends. She has 4 friends. No, actually, no, 3 friends. And they all go to this dance, and then out of nowhere, there was a mass murder in the school. And they're just basically trying to find out, what happened, who is it. And Ruby is going through, a family, issue that happened in the book. And so they're just trying to figure out who is the Shadow Man.
So as y'all are looking in the background, we have the Shadow Man, Mikayla Hodor. That's her. I'm guessing that's Ruby as well. So Mikayla, did you make the cover yourself?
Actually, yes. My mom had to help me out. We went to the school that I used to go to, and we took pictures there. And my brother is actually the Shadow Man in the background.
Oh, to make a great cover. And this is the first part of it. We want to give that away, though. Mm-hmm. So that is the Shadow Man, people. So what's unorthodox about this book, especially coming from a 13-year-old, and it's not too crazy. So you're not like, oh my God, a 13-year-old would write something dark and demented like this. It's actually probably more of a dark comedy in a sense. So Mikayla, tell us why you chose the horror genre instead of something silly as most kids would choose.
Because to me, it's not really that interesting. I'm more into horror, comedy, and action. I'm not really into the little happy things or romantic. I think romantic genre is really corny to me. I don't know why. It just is. And so I directed it more to more comic relief horror.
So what I really liked about the book, and I did read it, guys, even I read the original manuscript. So what I found funny was that a lot of the horror moments almost seemed realistic, like a response to how somebody really would respond to these things. A lot of times in horror books or horror movies, people are like, oh my God, and Ruby's responses aren't quite that way. So what kind of inspired you to kind of write it that way, Mikayla, where it wasn't where the responses was probably a bit more realistic in the way that they responded to things?
Because all the characters have like different like personalities. Ruby is more like a brave type. Ruby's more like a brave type, and you know she's not like very like scary, like how like I don't know how to describe it, but like Ruby is like brave. She's like a really strong character, and she's like not afraid. And all the other characters, they have their own different personalities. So I just gave each and every one of them different personalities for the book.
Talk about some of those characters and some of your inspirations for those characters. I saw you kind of talked about it in your acknowledgments and things like that, but who are some of your inspirations for some of the characters? I'm gonna guess Ruby is you. So who are some of the other characters?
No,
What were your inspirations?
Ruby is not me. I would be so scared. I would be like crying and screaming and like running around. I would, that's not me. I think for Ruby, it would definitely have to be like my mom. Like she's like really like brave, and like when she can do like something scary, she'll be like easy done. And I'm like, this is kind of scary. And for my other characters, one of my friends named Taylor, she's one of the characters. She's Willow, and Willow like she's like really soft and sweet and sarcastic and like takes everything seriously. And the Aquarius is more like my brother because he's honestly really funny. My brother's really funny, and he doesn't take anything seriously sometimes. And like the worst if like the worst thing happens, he'll make it like really funny. And for Anthony, I don't know one. I think Anthony just like came out like on my mind. I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna make this guy. I'm just gonna be like the
So what about the characteristics of the Shadow Man? Obviously, he was your brother. Well, we're not gonna tell who the Shadow Man was, but so what was your inspiration for the Shadow Man?
The Shadow Man. Oh, I think I forgot. I was watching this movie called. Ooh, what was it called? The Invisible Man. The Invisible Man, and it came out, and I was like, ooh, he kind of looks good with the Shadow Man. And so basically, the Shadow Man, he was upset and he was mad about something. I can't say it, but he was mad about something, and he didn't process it like how you really should process it. So he was like, you know what? I'm gonna get revenge on Ruby because he was mad about something, and he just want revenge.
Okay, so we talked about your book a bit, but I want to get into the phenomenal student you are. Now, guys, I taught Mikayla for 2 years. I did what you call loop with the kids. So I I had her. She was one of my day ones, as I like to call her. She was one of my students I had on my first day, as I showed y'all that picture, and had her all the way up to my last day at that particular school. I had her in 4th and 5th grade. So, Mikayla, kind of talk about, I know you had some early struggles before I got you, and then eventually you kind of turned it around. So what kind of helped you kind of turn around from 4th grade and then going into 5th grade?
I think it was more on my reading that I was like really struggling on. My grammar was like really bad. I did not know how to like spell words right. And so you would pull me to the side and help me with that. And also writing this book, it also helped me with my grammar, like learning things from like the mistakes I had made in the book. And that really helped to help me with my grammar and my spelling. And also I didn't know how to read out loud like very well. And so you and just really helped me out with that. And I think that's what I needed.
Now, a particular conversation I always tell people about is I remember you had a particularly rough week. I think it was getting ready for start prep. And I mean, it wasn't probably the best year up to that point. I remember I guess I pulled you aside at that moment and kind of just told you, you know, and I was glad you kind of stopped feeling sorry for yourself, and you kind of decided, I think I told you to get to work or something, it's time to get to work. And I was encouraged that you did. You started working hard. I think you passed all your tests that next week, and then over the summer, your mom would tell me how you were reading the whole summer. I think you were reading like Diary of a Wimpy Kid and all those books. And then, you know, going into your 5th grade year, you end up, I think, making honor roll 9 weeks. So how did that feel, making honor roll after having all those struggles?
It was really good because knowing I had to work so hard just to get there, and then just getting there is like the best part. It's like I worked so hard for it, and then like finishing it out love and getting something out of like an award. It's like, wow, that's like really good for me. And I was like really happy.
Now, obviously, the classroom ended up doing very well. I mean, even a lot of y'all kids, y'all probably didn't realize that. I mean, 91% overall. Ironically, I think you were the last one to help us get there. And the school ended up going from what they call PEG status. So that means like they're a school that was struggling and kids could transfer out and things like that. And then, you know, because of you and some of your classmates on that grade level, we end up having the highest performance in the history of the school. And then even, let's go back a little bit. So tell everybody about that experience from the kid side of, well, a lot of people don't know my room is the phenomenal room now, but my first year as a teacher, the room was called the greatness room. So tell everybody about that experience and when y'all got 90% today and they got 90% on the dot today. It was a pretty surreal experience. So tell everybody about that experience of when y'all hit 90% in reading.
Everyone was like really happy. Like we were all like screaming and stuff, and it was like really funny because we were all just like jumping around the classroom and just screaming. It was like really funny. I think that was like really fun. It was like really fun that everyone was happy in there and that we did well.
Now, what people don't find interesting, what is it? What did we do right after that celebration? We got back to what?
Work.
Yeah. I don't
But
think
not
you
really.
have.
But then we also like celebrated, and then like also, I'm pretty sure we had a party. I think like we had.
Oh yeah, I think we had one of those. Now I always tell people we were celebrating making 60%. I mean, and I remember that next year we start, you know, classroom started getting 80 and 90%. That was pretty normal. So I mean, it wasn't getting 60%. I still remember how everybody was pretty sad when we only got 68% in reading for the benchmark. That wasn't a very cool moment. So at all. So talk about, you know, mom would tell me, I've talked with your mom a little bit, and she told me that when you got to middle school, your teachers were very impressed with you. So talk about that and like, why were they so impressed with you in middle school?
Really impressed with me. It was mainly my reading teacher actually. She was very impressed with the work I had. And then she was like, you should really be in pre-AP. I don't know why you're even like here. And I was like, what? No. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna put you in pre-AP. And I was like, oh, okay. And so now in the 7th grade, I was in pre-AP reading. And I think they're just like really like they're like proud of me because like I was like doing like really bad at like the beginning of the year, I think, and then like towards like the end I was working like hard enough, and then I started doing even more and more well. And in the 6th grade I was in pre-AP math, reading, and science. And I used to be in pre-AP social studies, but then they had to change that, and so I went back into regular social studies, and I was still doing really well. And so
I was gonna tell you, I would brag on my student here. Maybe I did something right or two. When I first got her, she was having some struggles, and you know, people were telling me that, hey, you know, she has some struggles, this and this. And I remember telling her mom, hey, just let me work with her. Now I probably shouldn't have said that because I had just started teaching. I didn't even know what I was doing yet. But I'm so proud of her to come from there to where she's at now, talking in pre-AP classes. And people were trying to say that, you know, she was having some struggles at that time. So that's just a lesson to parents and teachers, like, you know, don't brand somebody and say that they can't do something. Because she's in pre-AP now. So, I mean, that shows you what she's capable of now, and she's written a book. So, all right, so let's get to moving forward. Have you thought about your next title if you're going to write another book?
actually, yes, it's called Hide and Seek, and it's about how dystopian. I keep reading the word. It's about like this dystopian society, and hide and seek is where there are two groups. There are hiders and seekers, obviously, but the hiders have a blue dot on their head, on their hand. Sorry, my head. And I messed up. Sorry. And the seekers have a red dot on their hand. And so basically, the seekers are supposed to get the hiders. And there are two people that are seekers. Their name is Ravi and Nova. Yep, Nova. And they don't like the system, so they're trying to run to the government and take it down so they can stop everything.
Wow. That's and I would say I think we got maybe a young R.L. Stein. He was putting out a book a month. So I mean, maybe now that she's gone through the process, she can start putting out more books, and I'll be able to brag that I taught her. I probably have nothing to do with it. Maybe I did, but I'll get to brag that I actually taught a world famous author. And I got a few more in that classroom that might do some things, but I'm very proud. And I've been telling everybody I got a 13-year-old that's already written a book. And here's the funny part. I remember your second year. I remember I was working with one of your other classmates and we ended up going to one of those schools in spring. And one of the other teachers asked, like, what are you getting for, I guess, helping this kid with his interview skills? Like, oh, he'll probably mention me in a book one day. I never thought it would happen. A kid would end up mentioning me less than 2 years after that in a book. So I like thank you for that. Get my first mention in a book, hopefully not the last. But to close out, what lesson or what would you tell somebody, a kid that's your age or younger that wants to write their first book? What would you tell them?
I would tell them to just like work really hard on it and like don't give up, because like I was wanting to like give up because I was like editing a lot and I was really tired. And I just think that you should like work like really, really hard on it, and then make sure you have someone to check on your like grammar and like spelling errors. My mom had to help me out with that, and just don't give up on it. And if you want to like, be a writer, you should like do it right now so you have more time and stuff.
All right, so as we get ready to stop recording, I guess go live. So I think it only makes sense since we're ending the Phenomenal podcast that we do, I guess, be phenomenal one last time. So as I always say, be what?
Phenomenal.